What's up, everybody? Booma on the Digital Samurai for truth. No fluff on this one. Let's get right to it. Why do all roads lead to General Flynn? Let's get it, Crash.
All right, this is old news, but I never knew about this and the connections. So I'm just going to show you what I found. And I didn't find it on purpose. It was kind of a mistake, but I found this article about a nonprofit that's headed by General Flynn. And they're spending a large amount of money on the Flynn family through this nonprofit. I guess they were like looking at the taxes. And let me just show you. I don't want this to go too long. I'm going to give you a link and you can read it. But just for shizzles, here's what a little bit of it says. The nonprofit is called America's Future. Now, remember that name because I want to come back to it. But in the article here, it says, they used General Flynn as the chairman. They went on to hire his brother Joe as one of its directors, and then Flynn's sister, Mary. You can pause to read, but the article showed about the money that was flowing into the Flynn family. And I kind of want to know who's funding it. I didn't get to look into it, but in the article, it does say that because it's a 501c nonprofit, they aren't really required to disclose the names of their donors. So back to America's Future. When you click on that link and you go to the website, you get this. They're fighting for human trafficking. Why isn't this plastered everywhere? Aren't we here to fight for the children? And you can join and become a champion for America for $39. There you go. And I found this screenshot on X. I don't even know where they got it, but on the website, I wanted to know prices. Let me show you. I guess, it depends on what event. This one's $40. And this one is $650. And I just want to point out the name of their advisory board, the Little Flower Advisory Board. Yeah. And I want to show you who's all on the board. So I'm just going to run through the photos, and here we go. We have Sylvia Allman. She is a missionary. And we have Basil Boz, former CIA. Him and his wife are on the board. This guy, we have Jaco Bouillans. He has his own ministry for human trafficking, so he's already involved in that. We have Brian Gamble. He's on the data end of it. He's a tech visionary. And Brian, he was a former U.S. Navy intel officer. Yeah. And guess who else? Yep. We have Liz Crokin and Laura Logan. We have Lynn Piper Loomis. She ran as a Republican for the House in the primaries in 2022, but she abruptly quits and dropped out of the race. Yeah. And then there was Tara Lee Rodas. She had been working with the HHS to place migrant children with sponsors. And of course, we had a lawyer and another lawyer. And here is the second lawyer. Why aren't we really hearing a lot more about this? Why aren't they promoting it a lot more than they are? I really didn't know about it. And why that name? I don't know. Like I said, I just have questions. And, didn't Q tell us everything's connected? I don't know. It's kind of looking that way. And why do I feel like all the roads lead back to Flynn all the time? Why is that?
All right, now we take that piece. Let's check in with Megan Walsh. The irony about all of this is that this is the one thing it seems patriots in the fight for our children are not focusing on or are not understanding: the child protection nonprofit / NGO Grift. And here it is appearing to be in plain sight by those we trust. Isn't that how we got here to begin with? I'm learning many lessons through this, and I will admit as well in regards to trusting another potential version of the same, especially seeing the addition of this pure project. They are also doing WIVF, sperm donations, and adoption. I am looking into this further, so I'll wait to comment more. NCMEC was the implementation of funding, secrecy, control, and more in 1983. We have seen countless other shell or copycat organizations since, including some of the same people in fact, such as Thorne, McCann, and Mr. Ernie Allen, even globally with ICMEC and others like Child Focus in Belgium, which was proven to be trafficking children and founded on a false child case. Was NCMEC Kathy O'Brien and Ted Gunderson directly state that it was created to be the front of the public to cover the real child trafficking by our government and officials under Senator Byrd. I hope this is not the case here, but as we see in the video below, OTS not looking good, and especially in the eyes of the people. We need to start discussing this loophole and context to fully understand and move forward to see real change. Protect American families. And pay attention here because we're going to do a recap on another presentation that a brilliant researcher did. Pay attention to Little Flower Advisory Board and all these connections to Flynn and the various characters that have already been discussed.
Okay, I think this video is long overdue. I am going to explain the link between the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as well as the Polaris human trafficking hotline, how it connects back to the Clinton Foundation, and then we're going to connect it all back to the Sound of Freedom and the entire deceptive network that is pushing this film and the facts, the most convicting facts that they are choosing to ignore while we highlight some of their hypocrisy along the way. All right, buckle up, Buttercup.
The greatest legacy you can leave is to make a statement for your children.
Until now, there has been no such place to which one could turn in order to try to find and help these children.
I'm delighted to have the opportunity to help launch the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
A strong, loud voice for children.
1-800-THE-LOST.
Call the number on your screen right now.
We have technology to age photographs of missing children.
These operators do God's work.
I owe so much to the National Center. They saved my life.
I'm Jenny Ruxpin, the official spokesperson for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
I'm driven. We're going to bring him home.
Code Adam was established as a tribute to my son.
The new cyber tip line will be using the internet to help catch child predators who operate online.
They were the major advocates behind the Amber Alert. Their work brought me home.
We dedicate it as the Children's Building.
But this is a building of hope. Thank you.
John Walsh became a national figure in 1981 when his 6-year-old son Adam was abducted from a department store. You may remember him as the host of America's Most Wanted, but he also founded the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children as part of legislation that the Walshes helped push through Congress. There is recent controversy surrounding his story as his daughter has come forward speaking out. I haven't had time to unravel that's truth or not, so I'm not going to focus on that. I just want to focus on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. President Bush signed the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act of 2006, which did have harsher penalties for offenders, but it also created a new National Child Abuse Registry, and this gave Child Protective Service professionals access to this information. We know that we always have to read through the lines with legislation that looks good on the surface. The CPS makes money from stealing children or kidnapping your children for money. There is federal funding in place for the CPS to kidnap our children. This is too small to see, so I took a screenshot to zoom in. It is the Adoption and Legal Guardianship Incentive Payment Program. Okay, they are making $40 million, $36 million by this incentive program. So they gave the CPS access to this database that links to quote unquote abuse. And then they put federal funding in place to rehome your child. And as many of us know, there have been reports that these children have also been trafficked and just not in good care when they are taken by the CPS. So the NCMEC connects back to Lockheed Martin, but also Peter Thiel and Palantir Technologies. Peter Thiel's Palantir had listed some of its clients as the CIA, DHS, FBI, CDC, some military, and also the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Since 2010, Palantir has partnered with NCMEC, providing our data integration software in support of its mission to help find missing children, reduce sexual exploitation, and prevent future victimization. So Peter Thiel has intelligence on the missing and abused children. All right, let's keep moving. Amber Ready Inc. sold software and kits to parents to keep a profile about their child in case they went missing. They selected the Podesta Group to be their PR firm. Working with Amber Ready to help inspire nationwide support for their innovative child safety solution should prove to be a very exciting and gratifying, stated Ed Rothschild, a principal of the Podesta Group. And here is a screenshot of the PR release in case you want it for your own records. We also know that Brian Podesta is an NCMEC business analyst. Here is a screenshot of his resume that he was a senior analyst at NCMEC. I did also find a video of a woman doing some research and sharing as she tried to connect this Brian Podesta to John Podesta.
And look what we have here. We have Jane, Brian, and PJ, his brother, at a White House lawn party in the early 90s with Bill Clinton. A photo from the 90s was somehow tucked away in one of our bookshelves. Visit to some party on the White House lawn when Jane Podesta and I still had 2 of our 3 kids at home. Where does the time go? Now, this is in the early 90s, guys. How do you think they got to this party on the White House lawn? I wonder, who was the chief of staff and the assistant to the president in the early 90s? Let's just take a trip to Wikipedia and let's see who was there. The Clinton years. Podesta served as both an assistant to the president and as deputy chief of staff. Earlier, from January 1993 to 1995, he was assistant to the president, staff secretary, and the senior policy advisor on the government information, privacy, telecommunications, security, and regulatory policy.
Okay, this is a timeline of Hillary's work specifically involving infants and children, and I'm going to hone in on some of the things that I think are important in regards to this video. You can see here in 1997, she promoted the nationwide immunization against childhood diseases, initiated and shepherded the Adoption and Safe Families Act, which provided funding for efforts in encouraging adoption. So the exact funding scheme that I mentioned earlier in this video. In 1999, she was instrumental in passing the Foster Care Independence Act, which launched the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Moving on, we see in 2009, she partnered with the Polaris Project, who runs the National Human Trafficking Resource Center and Hotline, to build an anti-trafficking approach replicable worldwide. In 2012, they hosted a Clinton Global Initiative conference focusing on human trafficking with former President Obama as the keynote speaker. So I want you to hear yourself and hear how ridiculous it is to say, why would the sound of freedom bring attention to something they are doing? And I need you to get over that hump and familiarize yourself with your enemy's tactics. They're the ones steering the narratives. They're the ones gatekeeping the truth. They're the ones creating the problem in order to give you the solution. The end will always justify the means. And this archived website proves just that. They actually say, responding to tragedy, created as a reaction to heinous crimes committed against children. We now take a proactive approach to child protection. And this was launched with Hillary Clinton. There's a lot more, but there's your direct connection to Clinton. Let's move on. Here is an archive website from theclintonfoundation.org where they talk about the Polaris Project, where they're going to build an anti-trafficking approach worldwide. At the bottom right, you'll see that there is a Center for Missing and Exploited Children partnership there. So the Polaris Project was created. There is a direct link from the Polaris Project to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and it does all connect back to the Clintons. Okay, so the Clinton Global Initiative partnered with the Polaris Project in 2009. The Polaris Project operates the National Human Trafficking Resource Center and runs the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Polaris is based out of DC, is funded by the Department of Health and Human Services. They create a database of organizations across the globe to monitor human trafficking. They state by enabling actors in the anti-human trafficking field to better locate, identify, and connect. So anyone who purports themselves to be an expert in anti-human trafficking should know this fact, and they shouldn't be utilizing this number, should they? Think about how they infiltrate and gatekeep legitimate patriots in every single way and avenue. They have an entire system to do it for child trafficking too. Started with them creating the entire database to trap children via Polaris, which is partnered with the Clinton Foundation. Peter Thiel from Palantir manages the intelligence behind the database. Then you have a Podesta on the inside. So don't tell me you want to help child trafficking victims and you were ignorant to the involvement of our own government and NGOs in it. So they create this database. They claim it's the most comprehensive database of modern-day slavery organizations ever compiled for the public. And right there, they're telling you the truth. So now, let's go back to Sound of Freedom and some other organizations that use this number. All right, back to Sound of Freedom.
Who's paying for this movie to come about?
I think Jim's. Aren't you footing the bill? A great group of people have come together to invest in this production. Some of them, the Carlos Slim family is involved. Really? From Mexico.
The folks who don't know who Carlos Slim is, tell them who he is.
He's one of the wealthiest men in the world. Telecommunications in Mexico, Latin America. His son Patrick is the real the point of contact for that. He's very passionate about what we're doing and fighting trafficking.
Largest shareholder in the Times is Carlos Slim. Now, Carlos Slim, as you know, comes from Mexico. He's given many millions of dollars to the Clintons and their initiative. So Carlos Slim, largest owner of the paper from Mexico. Reporters at the New York Times, they're not journalists. They're corporate lobbyists for Carlos Slim and for Hillary Clinton.
Carlos Slim also gave $100 million to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, worked alongside Clinton in Haiti, as well as many other times, many different fundings. He's also very close to the Rothschilds. Here's a photo of Mel Gibson with him. There's much more to dig here, but if you believe Bill Clinton is a catalyst to end human trafficking, you might as well believe that Tim Ballard is a catalyst to end human trafficking. Here's Operation Railroad, endorsing the National Human Trafficking Hotline, endorsing Ashton Kutcher. Ashton Kutcher is the founder of Thorn, described as digital anti-human trafficking software. Kutcher sits on the board of the McCain Institute next to Ernie Allen. The Thorn software is once again backed by Palantir, and all they're doing is really changing the mask. Same operation that was going on at the Clinton Foundation, just called something else because you found out what they were actually doing. Ernie Allen is a member of the McCain Institute and also longtime CEO of the NCMEC. So as you can see, cheering for the Sound of Freedom is like cheering for a human trafficking movie that was produced by the Clintons themselves. Here is Angel Studios. They might as well just put a billboard up advertising their connection to the Polaris Project, NCMEC, and the Clinton hotline number. This is the Child Liberation Foundation, founded by Knights Templar Paul Hutchinson, also ex-CIA, and promoting and pushing the Sound of Freedom and the Clinton hotline. Here is a photo of Tim Ballard with Craig Sawyer, who sabotaged the CMEX investigation in Arizona that Lewis Arthur found. He was a bodyguard for Hillary Clinton and John McCain, and then he later removed it and lies about it and gets extremely angry if you ever ask him about it. He, of course, references the NCMEC number. Now, let me show you some glaring hypocrisy. Here's Laura Logan, Flynn's child trafficking adrenochrome calling out sweetheart, insinuating that the cyber tip line for the NCMEC basically uses these intelligence services and uses it to control people and assets. Her words. While the film she's promoting is basically promoting them like a billboard. So does the Flynn organization, America's Future, the same one that Liz Crokin is advertising here, and the same one that she sits on the board with of their Project Defend and Protect Our Children Little Flower Advisory Board, along with another CIA member, Basil Baz, as well as Jacob Booyens, Liz Crokin, Brian, I Dress Like Antifa, Gamble at J6, and Laura, I Speak About Adrenochrome with No Agenda, Logan. And here's Laura Logan mocking anyone who dares question the sound of freedom, even though her hypocrisy is blinding. These people must be getting paid a ton of money to profit off the atrocity of child sex trafficking and exploit that notion. And don't give me that, oh, maybe they don't know. Because if they don't know, they have no business sitting on a board of an anti-trafficking organization.
Come a long, long way. Now, the center is more needed than ever.
Oh, how the organizations and all the pieces continue to come together. Speaking of pieces, here Liz Crokin came in and just like Megan says when she was communicating with Michael Flynn, hey, where have you been? Would be happy to discuss this and have been. You know what I'm referring to, Michael? Devastating. Please don't comment here so that your minions come. We can discuss as adults. I have full confidence, faith, and trust in you. Many did. And then Liz Crokin comes in. It's general. Show some respect. He certainly earned it. And then she just got boom roasted. And you can see this on the screen. And she ended up deleting that comment. These characters are popping up their heads. They're fighting to survive. Joe Flynn leaving X. All this stuff is starting to come together. And who else do we want to bring into this? Oh yeah, Megan Walsh also reminds us, Juan O'Sabin was 1 degree of separation behind my first case. We thought he was going to help us so much, and we were led to believe he was sending those who would. It was quite the opposite and horrific. If anything, he sabotaged and handled my case the entire way through, in the opinion of my team and I. So now I want to check out a video that I recently played on another episode just to put more of these pieces together for you.
All right, Juanito, can you hear me, Juanito?
Well, I can. Hey, guess who I got here? Got Laura Logan. There you go.
Well,
You've had her on
I don't
before.
think she liked that very much.
Huh?
I don't think she liked that very much. Looked uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh! Give her a big smile.
Hey, Laura.
She's. We're just decompressing here. So actually, they're taxiing right now, and so you get a big kick out of that.
So all these Flynnians that are connected and this network that spreads out, are they doing just grifting with all the material that we've just covered already and all the pieces that we're putting together here? Why do all roads lead back to Flynn and Juan and Liz Crokin and Laura Logan connected to Nino and these characters and these organizations that Megan Walsh and Crash and all of us are trying to figure out why it all leads back to Flynn? And one more piece, shout out to 777 on X for bringing this to my attention. Now we have Jack Maxey on John B. Wells, tying it also in the J6, just a little bit more, and other reasons to pay attention to Flynn.
I appreciate your saying that. Well, right back at you. Let's hit some points. Let's just go nonstop, a regular, what do you call it, a lightning round. I've got a note here. It says General Flynn. Which General Flynn? Over to you.
Well, that's a great question. If anybody watched the testimony from an incredibly brave, honorable American Army captain in Congress last week who was on standby to provide extra security for January 6th, his contact in the Pentagon was General Flynn's brother. And he's speaking to him on the phone, and he said, I was told to stand down, and what really freaked him out was that General Flynn, the one we know, the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, was also on the phone. Now, we have to remember, I'm pretty sure General Flynn spoke on January 6th as well. This guy is completely a controlled figure. I would say without any fear of him suing me for defamation, that this guy's a fraud. I called him from Switzerland in March of 22 with information that Hunter had access to the Department of Defense computer system as an administrator on his computer. There were tales of this. Did nothing. 2 weeks later, he's slamming me, saying I'm a bad guy. Same with his other brother, the non-general. Why is Flynn in the middle of all this? You can see that he's jockeying for the presidency right now, or at least the vice presidency. I would counsel Donald Trump or any other nominee. That would be a giant mistake.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you're talking about this Captain Timothy Nick. Now, he named Charles Flynn, I do believe. Yeah.
Yes, but he claimed that General Flynn was also on the phone. Why would he be on the phone? Why would he be...
But Charles Flynn is a general, right?
No, but his brother, Michael Flynn, was also on the phone, apparently. So why would he make that claim? This is not just about Charles. This was about retired General Michael. Why would he be in the middle of a phone call like that? I can tell you, and I can tell the Congress and anybody else who cares, or any of the fellows who don't really take their oaths as seriously as those of us who were handed a Polaroid in the 80s. General Flynn was on the phone, for example, in the White House.
Let me straighten you up on something here. Hang on now.
Sure.
CNN is even carrying this. From January 22nd, 2021, the Army is now acknowledging that Lieutenant General Charles Flynn, the brother of President Donald Trump's former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, was in the room for one of the key January 6th decisions.
Well, I saw the testimony, and maybe I heard it differently, but the young captain, the National Guardsman, said that he called the general that you were talking about, not Michael, the brother, who's on active duty now.
Right.
And he was on the phone with him, and he was shocked to also find out that he was on the phone with Michael Flynn. So I'd like to know why is it that, this is
gotcha.
Right? And then why is it that Michael Flynn was the guy who went into the White House with Patrick Byrne and admitted FBI informant? Just look up Patrick Byrne and the Maria Butina, the Russian girl who was put in jail. It's an FBI informant. And somehow General Flynn and Sidney Powell and Patrick Byrne show up at the White House in late December. They use the pass of Garrett Ziegler, the founder of Marco Polo. They come into the White House. They meet with Trump in the Oval Office. They have a pre-planned meeting with the media out on the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue. This means that Flynn and Byrne and Powell invited these people there. And they come out with the story of the Kraken and Dev Group in Dusseldorf and Delta Force in Milan, and the whole world rolled their eyes in the back of the head, and there was a collapse of any hope of any recount. Now you will note that many of the attorneys and other people who were supposedly involved in the recount are all being prosecuted. General Flynn? No. Patrick Byrne? No. Sidney Powell? They made a show of it, but she just walked. You can always tell who's on the dark side by the consequences that they pay. This is not calculus. This is McGuffrey Reader second grade addition, subtraction, and division. And the American people need to know that all of these people were involved in trying to destroy Trump. Remember, General Flynn was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under Obama.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At the time, that through the Department of Defense, from CIA, with Fauci's blessings, they set up all the biolabs in Ukraine. Has General Flynn ever answered to that? No. The CIA bases in Ukraine that we now know about from the New York Times, no less, just 3 weeks ago. The American people have to know that we bleed, we die, and we suffer to cover up the lies of an unaccountable intelligence apparatus that records every keystroke, records every conversation, knows your every secret, and this pretense that we are living under a republic is an absolute farce. And to prove that, you can look at the vote on eliminating the Fourth Amendment of our Bill of Rights. And all Americans should remember, the Bill of Rights exists because the 13 colonies did not have faith that a federal government would not turn itself into George III. So they wanted to have all of our God-given natural rights defined in writing. That's in the Bill of Rights. The guarantee, right? The thing that made the agreement on all the other stuff acceptable. The United States Congress, the United States Senate just voted to eliminate your Fourth Amendment rights. Your right to not have your private papers, your personal effects searched without a warrant, signed by a judge with a witness. They just eliminated that. If that portion of the Bill of Rights can be voted away in the middle of the night, then what other portions? Your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, right? What's not available for the Leviathan's gaping mouth, willing to chew up every one of your liberties?
Keep connecting the dots. Save our liberties. Protect ourselves from the Leviathan, because this Flynn network is extensive. And more as we ask these questions, people are showing who they really are. I'm not even going to read this nasty comment by Mr. Truth Bomb, but there it is. Everyone's coming to the surface. The swamp is being exposed. Keep it up, Crash. Keep asking these questions, because why do all roads lead to Flynn? Peace.